Hello everyone, welcome to the Tim Radio Show. I'm your host, Tim Radio. This is going to be an episode comparing Cenk Uygur, which is the host of the Young Turks, and also running for Congress, him versus Alex Jones. Cenk Uygur versus Alex Jones. And they're basically the same kind of character. They're on two ends of the same spectrum of like crazy guys that just like shooting off in front of the camera. But they're very different sides of the political aisle, and they actually agree on a lot of stuff. So they're very anti-war. Both of them are very anti-war, and they understand there's a lot of propaganda, there's a lot of fake stuff, but they both kind of cherry pick their own things. And the Young Turks are hard left, and the Infowars, Alex Jones, is hard right. So one's big government, one's small government, one's this. So anyway, we're going to see that. We're going to jump right into this clip. So this guy here, Dan Pesos, I guess. I don't know. He has this little documentary that he made here just a few days ago, which is, I watched a bunch of clips from it. He actually did some excerpts because it's age restricted, so he did some excerpts showing Anna Kasparian, which is the co-host of the Young Turks. But I just wanted to play the first little clip of this, and then you can watch the rest of it.
There was some hope when a new regime called the Young Turks took power in 1908, promising freedom and equality for all ethnic minorities. But they broke their promises, and in the name of a new Turkish empire, they moved viciously against the Armenians. Armenian women tried to avoid rape by burying themselves up to their necks in sand. The Turks herded people into caves and then set brush fires at the mouth of the caves, primitive gas chambers. When the Nazis began their reign of terror, Wegener wrote to Hitler imploring him to leave the Jews alone. Already planning genocide of his own, Hitler declared, "Who remembers what happened to the Armenians now?"
The Young Turks. Too strong. How was that? Was that good?
That was great,
okay.
Cenk.
Yes.
I've always had what I think other people would call delusions of grandeur.
The mainstream media gives us credit for so much of the success of Bernie Sanders.
Of course I should be the top dog.
And here's just kind of a little thing here too. Alex Jones is kind of the main reason Trump got elected, and these guys are kind of the main reason that Bernie got a lot of his support. Now, I don't know if that's actually, I don't really think it's as true in his case as it is for Alex Jones' case. Just because it's not quite the same demographic that is the people that are Bernie supporters and the people that are his supporters. His supporters are further left than Bernie in terms of actions that they would take, and like as kind of a communist thing versus socialist. So Bernie is a socialist, but this guy is more like a communist, and more like you have to fight about stuff. Like he's more like an Antifa type crowd. This guy is. So, and I don't think really there is a crossover with Bernie supporters and Antifa, but the bulk of Bernie supporters are actually just, the same kind of guys that are supporting Trump for the majority. It's just the average kind of guy. It's just they lean that way or the other way, and they kind of like those kind of characters, right? So they're not very extreme in what they actually say or do, but they kind of like, they kind of like their agendas, right? So anyway, let's keep going.
I should be the biggest talk show host in the country.
Well, the Young Turks.
The way I do it, I don't think anyone else does it better. I don't think anyone's even close.
Morning radio. Goddamn Ashley Madison. Why did they leak the names? Why? Why did they leak the names? What?
My first impression of Cenk was he was a complete jackass.
So yeah, and it's just kind of a lot of these people kind of talking about it or whatever.
The idea was that we'd talk half about politics and half about J-Lo's ass.
I met Jill Pike in 2001, and I thought she'd be perfect.
So, and this is kind of their history is riddled with this kind of stuff. They'll make a point about something, so they'll go out of the way, make a point like, I can't believe this is the case, blah, 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 this can happen just like that can happen just like this, blah, blah, blah. So they go off into this big tangent saying this stuff, and then they kind of get called on it, and then they go prove it, but they try to like prove it live, and they always fail. Well, not always, but like, this was one of the times they're like, I'll just roll it back a bit. See the whole thing.
By a technical knockout. Girls are weak.
Conservative pundit George Will was on This Week on Sunday, and he was making some comments about women fighting on the front lines and how he's against it. In fact, he said the following: "You're a 6'4", 240-pound Marine, and you're injured, and you need a Marine next to you to carry you back to safety. And the Marine next to you is a 5'4" woman who weighs 115 pounds. It's relevant." And I love Martha Raddatz because she brought up something known as the fireman's carry, which is a relatively easy way to carry an individual. We're about to attempt the fireman's carry. Grab you, put you on my back. All right, deep squat. All right, ready? Lay down on my back, dork. You're supposed to be dead.
I'm ready, you fucker, just go.
But
yeah,
the
so
whole
that really
thing's
proves the
absurd
point.
because George Will is making a case that doesn't exist in the real
Exactly.
world. In the real world, you have to go through the military training and you have to pass a test before you can get into the front line, whether you're a 115-pound dude or a 115-pound woman, right?
A year-long study by the Marine...
Which is actually, that's a pretty valid point in response. But this person here, just kind of go off on a tangent about her for a second. This is Anna Kasparian. Total piece of shit. Total absolute. There's a whole compilation of her just being a total idiot. She's the type of person that would yell because like something's unfair, like fat shaming. It's like it's so, and then do like an hour rant on fat shaming, and then she sees Alex Jones and says, "Get off the stage, you fat fuck." And that's what these people do. They kind of project the very stuff that that's kind of a thing on the left is projection. They talk about and get mad about the very things that go on within them. So the very dilemmas that they have when they talk about they're obsessed with racism, things are racist. It's because they're racist. The things that they do are racist. They keep trying to do things for certain people based on their race instead of just trying to treat everybody equal. They go out of their way to specifically try to whether it's virtue signaling, when they go try to make policy changes, when they just sit there and point out all these things wrong with certain communities and then blame it on another community. It's and not even just talking about historical facts or historical information or policy change, not even just doing that, but like constantly injecting this anger into it, like frustration. And that'd be fine if you're trying to expose something, but it's never there's nothing ever gets exposed. It's only ever really gets debunked from this side.
Marine Corps indicates that groups or units that are all male perform better than mixed units that include females. All male squads, the study found, performed better than mixed gender units across.
So anyway, that's just her dealing with
the males were more accurate, hitting targets faster.
Cenk Uygur here.
He's
Okay. Yeah.
much worse, such as
How do you feel about all the stuff that Trump said?
the rise in anti-immigrant sentiment. That's pretty much, it's raised fear amongst our communities and things like that. It brings back memories and history. So, of other leaders, of other groups, people that have rose to power and have done much worse, such as the Young Turks. So, which is
very
interesting.
I'm sure it would be entertaining, but we do
Well,
focus on the election.
I actually do want to quickly respond to that because I think it's an interesting concern.
Have a seat. Have a seat.
No,
so
it's
he
okay.
brought up a question. And
So
Anna's
we
gonna answer.
worked really hard on this episode, and Mora Sosterra.
All right.
Okay,
So
we're going to take a quick break.
We'll
when
take
we
a
come
quick
back,
break,
we'll have more questions from the audience, from actual
So
students.
people really don't like there's quite a few people who don't like the fact that that's what they name themselves off of. And it kind of plays into my sort of, I guess, theory or assumption or something that a lot of evil will present itself as evil. So when something calls itself, the Young Turk, and then he called himself the Young Turk, and then he made it plural when he, got funding and stuff from companies like Google and Univision. They gotta, it's like the mark of the beast. They gotta sign it and say what they are. It's never hidden. It's always on their sleeve at all times, and that's kind of something that actively look for. And it plays into this case. I mean, why would they call themselves Young Turk? Like, there's nothing special about that. Like, even if you actually read the story or read the history of that, there's really no gleaming points that you would want to snap. It's like, yeah, they did this, but they also did this. That'd be like, say, not to the extent, but that would be like saying, we call ourselves the Nazis, Nazi news, because, I mean, the Nazis actually had really good news campaigns. So that's what we liked about them. Yeah, I mean, exclude the genocide part, but it's just a reference. It's an ode to that. That's what these guys are doing with the Young Turks. Why would they name themselves that? So anyway, someone actually calls them out in that. And anyway, that kind of gives you a little bit of context. This is a really good documentary. There's a lot of clips. It's just jam-packed full of ridiculousness, contradictions, buffoonery, and all this kind of stuff. So I wanted to play another part. This guy did another really good clip too, Arlen Specter. Because the people are really starting to go back and look at it, especially since he's running. You're going to have a lot of opposition that's going to be compiling all this stuff. But this is who he is. He's been on the radio, sort of like Alex Jones, which we're going to see here in a second. It's like Alex Jones was going. There's tons of stuff that you can see about him that you can, compile, and it looks ridiculous, but it's kind of funny and it's kind of enlightening. So even the meme stuff that people love making memes out of Alex Jones, because that the meme culture kind of gets it's almost like humor that you. Like certain movies that you'll see, certain TV shows that you watch, it has like a certain humor to it, and some people are just like, I don't get it, man. It's over my head, or I just don't understand it, or it's just not funny. It's just not my humor, or it's, too rude, or it's too this, it's too whatever. It's the same kind of thing with the whatever. Anyway, I'm gonna play these clips. The videos say more than I can.
Let's start with Heidi Montag.
Absolutely.
She turned 22 years old yesterday.
Star, right?
Right.
And this is a clip that I just want to show a little bit part of that's kind of shows his kind of personality, what he acts like, especially when people weren't really getting in trouble at the time for talking like this. This is just how he openly was without any kind of filter.
Right.
Christian singer.
She's come out with a Christian album.
How many penises at once do you think she's had? What's her record?
I don't know. I think she's probably had one at a time.
No,
but I think that it has entered different orifices
of the body.
Of the body.
My over/under is 3.5.
No, a 3.5. Come on.
I think
that means
at once.
At once. Okay,
yeah.
That means 3 normal-sized guys and 1 very small guy.
And a mini-me.
And a mini-me.
No, it's just the over/under. I'm saying so it's either 3 or 4, but I'm not exactly sure. Okay. Christian singer.
Well, just to point something out there, I'm not sure that like mini-me or like just midgets or dwarfs or whatever the name is now, I don't think they have smaller appendages like genitals. Like they have smaller arms and legs, but that like the torso is the same size. That's kind of why it looks like that. It's because just the arms and legs that are short. I don't think their testicles and wieners are necessarily smaller. So I mean he says so many things in this thing that are just really stupid things to say on the air and stuff. The way he talks, I'm just going to keep
We've never had sex.
Look at that.
Please, come on. Look at this. Oh, yeah, she's done that before to things that weren't kinks. Okay? Come on.
He's talking about someone that presumably at the time was talking about being a Christian, being a virgin or something, and they're like degrading her, talking about her like this, assuming that this isn't true and this is whatever.
She's such a whore.
No, come on. Don't call her a whore because we don't know that. We have apps. That's just speculation. We don't know that. But she's definitely a camera whore. She's she's
surgery because I think it'll really screw you up. And I guarantee you this. I'll make this prediction right now. Okay, Jared Jackson. I'm on the record on this one. Okay, Heidi Montag will definitely have 1 too many plastic surgeries. She'll probably have 8 too many plastic surgeries. And she will fuck herself up. She's gonna look nasty.
Actually, I didn't know who she was at the time, so I googled her and looked at her. She looks totally normal. I guess she's kind of making a comeback now. She doesn't look gross at all. She did have plastic surgery, I guess, like fake boobs or something. But she's not like one of those people that it's not like a Kardashian, not even on that level.
She's had this many plastic surgeries by the time she's 22 or something.
Yes.
Okay, man, she's gonna go way overboard. Having said that, she should stop now because so far it's worked. Because every once in a while I look at a Heidi Montag picture and I say, I shouldn't, but I'm a little turned on by it. I get carried away.
I mean, it's not fair to do that, to put a picture in the face.
And that's what she says now when she's 26 years old. Let's see what she says when she's 29. 32.
Talk about whether or not she'll be
5.
into porn or something.
Has arced, and I feel that it's going on its way down, and then I'll shows the nip, but this is totally okay. Jessica Alba, you have... Oh, wait a minute. Sad day for you. You already showed it. Isn't it?
So he's oogling about a nip pic there.
If I post a picture of myself in a bathing suit on the internet, it's different from me posting a picture of myself with my coochie all exposed.
That's true. Where would that picture be? Are you in the bathing suit?
Like if I were to put a picture on my personal website of myself at the beach in a hot bathing suit.
Have you done that?
No, I have not.
Okay.
But you know.
Because I think some guys on YouTube might be interested.
I think so too. But I mean, it's different. It's a bathing suit. But if I post a picture of myself like Kim Kardashian style, it's not so cool.
Yeah. I think it's a minor difference. I think you guys are blowing it out of proportion. Go. Damn! Damn! That is about the hairiest thing I have ever seen in my entire life.
So anyway, this is actually him. Okay, the stuff isn't out of out of context. And then check this out.
Housing for people who need it.
So this being politics, things get dug up that are...
So in like they even say at the very like watch this.
Cenk joins me now to discuss his run. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you, Hermela. I appreciate it.
Yeah, looking forward to this conversation. Full disclosure to begin with, I worked with Cenk and the Young Turks back in 2012 when the Young Turks was on current TV. So with that...
I'm very excited to have this conversation with... What did she say?
In terms of Bernie Sanders' endorsement. So is that something that you're concerned about?
So that's broken into
in the district.
Yes, I've got literally 50 events planned in the district right now. I believe in the people. This is what democracy is supposed to look like.
All right, Cenk Uygur, always a pleasure. Thank you so much for your
Okay, I gotta find the spot again. I can't find it.
That I have apologized for and should apologize for.
Posed a problem for you. Somebody has found in the archives, one of them called sexist, the other just politics, and they're get dug up.
We'll get there. We'll get there. There we go.
People who need it.
So this being politics, things get dug up that aren't necessarily about policy or politics, and there have been some comments that somebody has found in the archives, one of them called sexist, the other just simply called crude, and it's already posed a problem for you in terms of Bernie Sanders' endorsement. So is that something that you're concerned about?
So that's broken into two parts, Hermela. Okay, one part is stuff that I said 20 years ago when I was trying to be a politically incorrect Republican. That I have apologized for and should apologize for. When you look at that stuff, it's really uncomfortable, and I hate that women have seen that because it makes them uncomfortable, right? And it's not right. So when you're wrong, you've got to have the courage to admit it. Luckily, I didn't do that when I started running for office. It's not like, oh my God, I'm running for office, let me clean things up like Bloomberg.
Yeah, I mean, he's the first one to shoot off about Trump saying grab him by the pussy thing, even though that was like 15 years ago. Same time frame that he said all his stuff, exact same time frame. He didn't say 20 years ago. First of all, they're referencing blog posts that he wrote like about 20 years ago, and he was writing all the stuff about, you know, like writing about rape and you know, super misogynistic stuff, like kind of like anti-women, like he was mad at women kind of thing, and just really shitty posts, like really bad stuff that you like anybody would read and be like, dude, that's messed up. And so and then Bernie Sanders gave him an endorsement. This stuff came back out. He rescinded, he pulled it back, took back his endorsement. And even I have a video of this when it happened, when he had Bernie on. He did this whole like spiel about Bernie, and right before he ran, and I'm like, he's doing this to run, because he started talking about Bernie, like, hey, Bernie's the best, blah blah blah, and then Bernie responded, said, thanks, you guys do great work, something to that effect. And I called it at that moment. I'm like, he's running, he's gonna run, and he did that to try to get good favor with Bernie so that he'll back him with his congressional writing. It's exactly what happened. Then all this stuff came out about all this old stuff that he wrote, and then he pulled it back. And then he's like, apologize over here, but he's making it sound like it's just something that, you know, it was like a random blog post or something like 10 years or 20 years ago. But this is stuff like, you know, 10 years ago on his Young Turks channel. So he said he kind of like when I was when I was trying to be a non-politically correct Republican. The guy was way into the Young Turks at that point, like years and years. He already made about like I think the Google YouTube studios or something like that gave them like tens and tens of millions of dollars, gave them like free rent, studio equipment, all this kind of stuff, and then they go around trying to say like they never got money for anything like that, but they got all this other funding and tax breaks, huge tax breaks, and anyway.
No, I deleted all of that 15 years ago because when no one saw it, because it wasn't who I was. The new stuff is mainly made up, so they just take things out of context. I had
the new stuff is mainly made. No, we just watched it.
Pretended that I was friendly with him. I called him an anti-Semite, a racist, and a loser.
And this is a classic way that these guys will kind of spin something. So if you actually were to read. Like, if you were to print out everything he just said and actually read it and circle all the contradictions, it's insane. Because they'll say, I didn't do this. I absolutely did not do that. This is blah, blah, blah. And even if I did, something. So it's like, wait, what? You just said adamantly that you didn't, but then even if you did, then you start making another side argument because you know you did. We have proof you did, and this is just you're just trying to take as many routes out as possible, and it's kind of stupid because you only need one. It's kind of like I remember hearing this, just kind of little side thing. I remember hearing this. I think it was from Jim Rohn saying, the guy was so stupid. He said he was giving me 5 reasons why it couldn't be done. The guy's so stupid. He only needed one. And it's kind of that expression, like you don't have to give 5 reasons why something will or won't work. You only need one. That's the whole basis of it will work or not. It's a binary thing. You don't need to stack up all the stuff and waste time and make yourself look bad over speaking things. And that's what a lot of people do when they're either nervous and usually they're nervous when they're wrong. They know they're lying, and it's replaying in their brain live. Like some people just do it when they're nervous. Some people just for other things. But this guy is kind of a master at speech, and not a master at speech, but he has a very unique way of speaking about certain things, and it's pretty textbook for like a leftist idiot. Like that's just the only way I can say it.
An anti-Semite, a racist, and a loser. So when they smear me with that stuff, they are purposely trying to deceive people and make sure they don't concentrate on the issues. Look away from money in politics. Look away from the corruption, because Cenk might or might not have said something bad 20 years ago.
So yeah, that might or might not have. So he's not directly lying about the fact that he didn't say it, but he's just giving all this doubt to everything that was said. And I have not seen one thing about this thing about him and Richard Spencer or whatever. And then he goes on and says, I did this with... It's like, no, that's not one of the things you're being called out on. It's video clips of you being, like, just raunchy and being a shithead and looking like an immature idiot and oogling women all the time in all these episodes. Like, tons and tons of episodes where he makes kind of, like, just kind of sexualized comments about stuff. And we're going to see more of that because it's just unreal, man. It's ridiculous. All right, so anyway, you can see the full thing there. Now let's get Alex Jones here. I just want to play this because I thought this is a new little clip from Be Real TV. These guys do the smoke boxing. They get high in this box or whatever, and just talk about stuff. And I heard this little clip about it. And
yeah, because I think when you're in that world, you sort of
man, everything's a lie to him. I mean, it's like he
talk
sees
about Alex
so
Jones.
many different lies, and he pulls them up and he shows them to you. He shows you crazy shit. Like there was one of them he was talking about if they had the ability to abort a gay fetus, that some scientist was trying to figure out whether or not you could tell if a fetus is going to be gay if you could abort it.
Crazy.
I was like, is that real?
Turns out it was real. It turns out that it's real because
he's right about things, man. Yeah. I've known the guy forever, and he's absolutely a madman.
You didn't talk to him for a minute. Right?
I mean, he exposed a lot of things.
Yeah,
that a lot of people were like, oh, no fucking way. And then he actually shouted. And
I hate that he's connected to that Sandy Hook thing. I hate it as a friend of his. I hate it as
it's unfortunate.
What I'd like out of him. I mean, I don't expect. It's hard for people to understand most people's friendships, But when you've been friends with a guy for like 20 years, and I get him on a podcast,
Ignore that
you
background.
can see why we have fun.
Yeah.
Like me and him and Eddie Bravo, we have fun together.
Yeah.
So we'll see some of this. Let's watch this. Here's a
Your
good
new
clip.
listener just type in Pentagon tested gay bomb on Iraq. They didn't consider using it. They've used it on our troops. In Vietnam, they'd spray PCP on the troops, Jacob's Ladder. You think PCP, some horse tranquilizer, something? They got stuff that'll whack your brain permanently. Brain chips in the troops. They give the troops special vaccines that are really nanotech that already re-engineer their brains. Yeah, there it is, the gay bomb. Look it up for yourself. I mean, this is what they're... What do you think tap water is? It's a gay bomb, baby. And I'm not saying people didn't naturally have homosexual feelings. I'm not even getting into it, quite frankly. I mean, give me a break. You think I'm like, shocked by it, so I'm up here bashing it because I don't like gay people? I don't like them putting chemicals in the water that turn the friggin' frogs gay. Do you understand that? Serious crap. I'm sick of being social engineered. It's not funny.
So you can kind of see the different flavor there. It's very similar. It's like this angry guy just shooting off to the camera, saying a bunch of crazy stuff. But there's a slight difference there. It's not quite the same thing, right? So it kind of feels like it's kind of equal, but in other ways it's very, very different. Now, that's my own personal bias playing into it because I happen to like him versus I really don't like Cenk. Even though there's some things Cenk will actually say that I agree with. So like his big thing is to talk about getting money out of politics, which is him just saying corporations shouldn't be able to spend money in like super PACs, and if you're a corporation and you want to donate a bunch of money to this guy's campaign, you can do it, or whatever. So there's some things like that I can. All right, I don't know if it's right or wrong, but I can get it. I can get that kind of point of view. Or you talk about getting out of the wars and all that. Yeah, absolutely. Totally agree. And then some of the ways he'll say it sometimes is kind of like off-putting. But there's just so many things I've seen with Cenk Uygur that I'm just like, oh my God. Like, this guy's an embarrassment. Where Alex Jones is kind of like, it's just kind of funny. Like, it's a little bit more self-aware, I guess. I don't know. But this is basically, I just wanted to play this because it's
a depression. Everybody's out of work or scared of losing their job. The dollar buys a nickel's worth. Banks are going bust. Shopkeepers keep a gun under the counter. Punks are running wild in the street, and there's nobody anywhere who seems to know what to do, and there's no end to it. We know the air is unfit to breathe, and our food is unfit to eat. We sit watching our TVs while some local newscaster tells us that today we had 15 homicides and 63 violent crimes, as if that's the way it's supposed to be. We know things are bad, worse than bad. They're crazy. It's like everything everywhere is going crazy, so we don't go out anymore. We sit in the house, and slowly the world we're living in is getting smaller, and all we say is, please, at least leave us alone in our living rooms. Let me have my toaster and my TV and my steel-belted radios, and I won't say anything. Just leave us alone. Well, I'm not going to leave you alone. I want you to get mad. I don't want you to protest. I don't want you to riot. I don't want you to write to your congressman because I wouldn't know what to tell you to write. I don't know what to do about the depression and the inflation and the Russians and the crime in the street. All I know is that first, you've got to get mad. You've got to say, I'm a human being. God damn it. My life has value. I want you to get up now. I want all of you to get up out of your chairs. I want you to get up right now and go to the window, open it, and stick your head out and yell, I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore. I want you to get up right now.
Yelling.
Open it and stick your...
Everybody's yelling.
Open it and stick your head out and yell and keep yelling.
These are basically the people that elected Trump. That's the way I see it. These are the liberal. That's the liberal media that was just like, what the hell just happened? But yeah. Here's another little clip that gives you a good insight
But
to
beyond
who
that,
Alex
it's
Jones
a
is.
vampire conspiracy in that they are interdimensionally sucking the essence of our youth.
Right.
And they believe they're possessed by an off-world entity.
They do?
Yeah, and Joe, I've been on air 22 years. I don't get into aliens, metaphysical, religion, any of that. I've studied the elite, and I've also communicated with a lot of the top people. And if you want to know, I will actually break down right now the best knowledge right now what's happening on the planet.
What's happening?
And before he gets into this, because I really want to point something out here. If I go to the Joe Rogan podcast YouTube channel thing here, and we sort by the videos here, if we sort by the most popular, Alex Jones will be right here. So you can see Elon Musk, 28 million. Alex Jones returned. So the second time he's on Joe Rogan, 17 million views. And then also 10 million views when he was on the first time, which is the clip we're watching right now. So that's over 2 years ago. Now, the second time he went on, I don't remember if this was the case in the first time. I think it was, because I'm pretty sure I even sent them an email pointing this out to them. I don't know if I actually sent that or not. But, like, I vividly remember, like, this whole thing happening twice at least. But anyway, I definitely remember this one. When this one came out, I was watching it live, and I'm like, wow, man, this thing's already got like 3 million views. Like it just finished live or whatever. And it's had like 3 million views. So I checked the trending thing, because anything that has like a million or has like 100,000 views in a day is going to should show up in trending, as long as it's not demarked for something. Not there. Wasn't there at all. It just kept going up, million, 2 million, 3 million, 4 million, 5 million. Just kept going up and up and up. And it wouldn't show up in any of the trending things. So, and a lot of his stuff does show in trending. So I don't know why. Okay, well, whatever. Then I went here just to try to find the video again. Because even when I typed in Alex Jones, Joe Rogan, it would still just show CNN, MSNBC, blah, 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 blah. So I go to the Joe Rogan podcast thing, sort it by popularity, show the most popular, and it wasn't even on the list. It was actually I think it was like down below like 5 million or something like that, 3 million. It was all the way down, and the number on it was like 8 million or something like that, but it was below the 5 million. So they're actually, and this is what happens. There's part of the algorithm. Now, I don't know if they fixed this or if they just reverted it, but part of the algorithm for determining what kind of content gets shared and displayed, like on the suggested videos when you go into a video, this whole playlist here is determined by the algorithm. So see how it's showing you a lot of Joe Rogan stuff? Because statistically, they know, just from the algorithm picking up over time and time, that if you're watching one Joe Rogan video, you're very likely to watch another and just keep going and going and going, watching all these clips. And then they'll mix in other stuff. So like Piers Morgan on Joe Rogan, or Alex Jones on Piers Morgan, and other stuff that you've clicked and watched and stuff. So I was watching some UFC stuff, so it mixed that in, shows another Alex Jones video and stuff like that. So the algorithm that determines that factors in a whole bunch of stuff. Most of the things are click-through rates, so the percentage of people that click this out of the whole list, how many people click this one versus that one. Some of the views of the video, the content of the video, like if it's related to this person, that person, it determines all this. So this video, it knows Alex Jones is in this video. It knows that Conor McGregor's in this video. So if you're searching Alex Jones, it'll show you, so et cetera, right? That's pretty obvious stuff. Now, when you search stuff into the just top here, like I was searching Alex Jones, Joe Rogan, Space Aliens. If I search that, there's preferred partners that come up usually first. They're much more heavily weighted towards the top. So MSNBC, CNN, even Fox News, their clips will be at the top because they're kind of like a verified news source or whatever. So they really promote that content first, and they'll start showing the other stuff. Well, they actually have the opposite effect as well. They have the opposite option that they're allowed to do as well. So they can actually go and say, we don't want this to show up in trending. We don't want this to be calculated in this way so that it gets more and more and more. We want to kind of sequester the virility of it, if that's the right word. So when we look at why he wouldn't have showed up in that list, it makes perfect sense why he was reduced in this list is because it actually weighs into this. It's the same algorithm weight, and so that kind of weight is so extreme that it'll actually push it down over this listing, which I guess doesn't just consider, like, this isn't just a list of just the top highest views. They artificially suppressed it so that even though it had 15 million views, it was looking at it like it had 15,000 views instead. See what I mean? And so the system's like artificially considering this as lesser content than what it actually normally would have been if it was just left into the mix of things. And this was the same thing on Google. So you would search Google, you would search Alex Jones, and all the content that would be showing up was like all this negative stuff. Now, this can be done artificially with the content providers, but at the same time, there's even like the rich snippet data that shows up on the right when you go look at something like Wikipedia, or you type something in. If there's a Wikipedia article, it'll show you on the right kind of like the snippet, those kind of things. Or if it's a business, it'll show a business thing, or if it's a person, it'll show you a person, or movies, it'll show movies and all the related movies, all that kind of stuff. But even when that started coming up, the related links to that started becoming like going to sources that were just pointing out constant negative stuff, that were like trying to debunk things and all this weird stuff, you know? Anyway, total manipulation there. Total absolute manipulation. They even lied about this in Congress. I pointed this out many times. Not only did Facebook point it out that they do this kind of stuff, that they actively manipulate the search results through effectively shadow banning certain topics or people and pages and groups. But YouTube does the exact same thing. Twitter, less so. Twitter seems to be kind of in the middle ground. But all these people banned Alex Jones. So they have guys like Richard Spencer, which Cenk Uygur was saying is a Nazi, and he is. He's a white nationalist. And that like he disavowed him and blah, 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 even though nobody was associating them together at all. It's just it's a scapegoat. It's a... I want to say a scarecrow argument, straw man argument. Just to divert the attention to something. No, see, man, they even pointed out that it was. It's like, no, that's not the main point. Anyway, so yeah, so I mean, they really don't like what he says. And now, if you listen to what he says, he never says anything bad. Like, he never says, go kill somebody or do this or do that. The white nationalist guy says much crazier stuff. Cenk Uygur says much crazier stuff. And they don't get permanently banned off these platforms. So anyway, let's remember he was just going to say something here.
It's all mind war. So these dudes are like, it stops working once you've taken it hundreds of times. So then...
Oh, did I go ahead? Yeah. Let's see, what's this one?
Let me give you a basic gestalt.
Okay. I love when you can use that word with full confidence.
Empire conspiracy, in that they are interdimensionally sucking the essence of our youth.
Right.
And they believe they're possessed by an off-world entity.
They do?
Yeah, and Joe, I've been on air 22 years. I don't get into aliens, metaphysical, religion, any of that. I've studied the elite, and I've also communicated with a lot of the top people. And if you want to know, I will actually break down right now the best knowledge right now what's happening on the planet.
What's happening?
Let me give you a basic gestalt.
Okay. I love when you can use that word with full confidence. I've never said that. Let me give you a basic gestalt. I'd be like, oh my God, I'm such a fraud.
No, you're not.
No, but that's what I'd think if I use that word.
No, you'll get all this because you'll already have most of the static because you're a bookworm, a research worm, in a good way. The elite are all about transcendence and living forever and the secrets of the universe, and they want to know all this. Some are good, some are bad, some are a mix. But the good ones don't ever want to organize. The bad ones tend to want to organize because they lust after power. Powerful consciousnesses don't want to dominate other people. They want to empower them, so they don't tend to get together until things are really late in the game. Then they come together. Evil's always defeated because good is so much stronger. And we're on this planet, and Einstein's physics showed it, Max Planck's physics showed it, there's at least 12 dimensions. And now that's why all the top scientists and billionaires are coming out saying it's a false hologram. It is artificial. The computers are scanning it and finding tension points where it's artificially projected and gravity's bleeding in to this universe. That's what they call dark matter. So we're like a thought or a dream that's a wisp in some computer program, some God's mind, whatever. They're proving it all. It's all coming out. Now, there's like this sub-transmission zone below the third dimension that's just turned over to the most horrible things, is what it resonates to. And it's trying to get up into the third dimension that's just a basic level consciousness to launch into the next levels. And our species is already way up in the fifth, sixth dimension, consciously, our best people. But there's this big war trying to, like, basically destroy humanity because humanity has free will, and there's a decision to which level we want to go to. We have free will, so evil's allowed to come and contend, not just good. And the elites themselves believe they're racing using human technology to try to take our best minds and build some type of breakaway civilization where they're going to merge with machines, transcend, and break away from the failed species that is man, which is kind of like a false transmission because they're thinking what they are is ugly and bad, projecting it onto themselves instead of believing, no, it's a human test about building us up. And so Google was set up 18, 19 years ago. I knew about this before it was declassified. I'm just saying I have good sources. That they wanted to build a giant artificial system. And Google believes that the first artificial intelligence will be a supercomputer based on the neuron activities of the hive mind of humanity with billions of people wired into it with the Internet of Things. And so all of our thoughts go into it, and we're actually building a computer that has real neurons in real time that's also psychically connected to us, that are organic creatures, so that they will have current prediction powers, future prediction powers, a true crystal ball. But the big secret is, once you have a crystal ball and know the future, you can add stimuli beforehand and make decisions that control the future. And so then it's the end of consciousness and free will for individuals, as we know, and a true 2.0 in a very bad way, hive mind consciousness with an AI jacked into everyone, knowing our hopes and dreams, delivering it to us, not in some PKD wirehead system where we plug in and give up on consciousness because of unlimited pleasure, but because we were already wired in and absorbed before we knew it by giving over our consciousness to this system by our daily decisions that it was able to manipulate and control into a larger system. There's now a human counterstrike taking place to shut this off before it gets fully into place and to block these systems and to try to have an actual debate about where humanity goes and cut off the pedophiles and psychic vampires that are in control of this AI system before humanity's destroyed.
Wait a minute,
humanity
the pedophiles
is only
are controlled of AI? How'd the pedophiles get in control of AI?
The pedophiles at a whatever level, the devil, whatever you want to call it, this interdimensional thing that gives them advanced off-world technology, the fallen one that's not of this world, is giving them advanced knowledge on how to construct these systems that have already been used before on other populations.
What?
Is that Satan?
But what are you talking
Satan.
about?
That's Satan.
But explain that. You're saying
Satan
something
becomes
insane.
something that the stupid preacher tells you about, who's totally controlled, or something you read about on in the news or TV.
Right.
But this is an interdimensional force that wants to influence us to build something that absorbs us and kills us, rather than the divine free will we're given to build something much better that empowers the species. So the species is now making a decision about its entire future.
Where are you getting this from?
That's what it is.
But where are you getting it
I
from?
know.
That's what it is.
From looking at all the data, researching it, studying it, watching the enemy, that's the big decision that humanity has now got before us.
So if you were directing someone to investigate this on their own, how would they do that? So if you say...
Well, I mean, here's the problem. You get someplace finally in deep research where it's what every culture already said, what everybody already knew, what they're telling you in movies like Prometheus, what the elite admit in the New York Times they believe in is this, seeded by off-world systems.
Panspermia.
Yes, everything they're doing points towards this, and then you read their own writings, they believe we're this ugly, fallen, ugly species, we're all need to be killed, they're the rich billionaires who are better than us, and they're going to merge with machines and become gods and go to the next level.
But don't you think that most...
And here's the thing, this is like a year before the Elon Musk interview. And so when Elon Musk went on there and he started kind of talking about the same kind of thing, like, you pretty much got to have to hook up into... And think about this. See how he just spewed off all this information? Then you go watch someone like Elon Musk. He can't really get out a full sentence. Elon Musk, I think Elon Musk is obsessed, probably slightly autistic or something on that kind of spectrum, because he has very bad, poor social skills. He's kind of like a child in some ways, like just silliness and stupidities and stuff like that. I think he's kind of a fluke billionaire. I think he was in the right place at the right time and is mathematically probably very smart, but he can't articulate some basic thoughts sometimes. It took him 20 minutes to kind of say what Alex Jones said there in about 10 seconds about the part. Essentially, like AI interfacing with humans live and creating this whole other kind of tier to intelligence. So Elon Musk actually talks about that like a year after this one. And there's even clips like kind of comparing them because people are just like, this was crazy or whatever. And then Elon Musk says it and it's kind of like enlightened stuff. But I also, one of the things he mentioned there that I pointed out probably, like I was just, anytime somebody would talk about AI or, you know, they're talking about like cybernetic implants on certain things or like bionics and all these different types of whatever. And like the whole kind of Terminator kind of concept and Skynet and all these things. But anyway, the main point that like I totally agree with in a lot of ways is the idea that that people are constructing stuff that people will end up merging into in hopes of creating some other extra beneficiary type system, some kind of, you know, you see better, you're gonna think faster, you're gonna do this, you can live longer, you can be immortal, we'll digitize you, we can make create a digital brain. That whole thing I feel like is evil. That whole concept of trying to live, like, it's one thing to live healthy and live long, but it's another thing to do cybernetic implants to replace your brain because this, that, the other, blah, 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 right? Getting new eyes, getting this, getting that, and just, because then eventually there's going to a point where they're going to say, all right, just upload. Just upload into the computer and you can go hang out with your friends. And then every real person's going to look at the computer and be like, oh, look, everybody, it's going to look so real. It's going to be like, everybody, oh, wow, look, that's, oh my God, that's my mom. That's my dad. And like, yeah, you can do it. And like, don't you want to be a part of this? Like, don't you want to be in this world? And it'll look so real. It'll be the Matrix. We'll be looking at the Matrix as people, and people will be choosing whether or not to opt into this system. And when they opt into it, you're dead. It's computerized version of you, and it'll look so damn good that people will think it's real. And it'll take all the data. Like, just think of a new kid gets a phone, he has this, everything he liked, the way he talked, all his conversations that he've ever had, the inflections in his voice, the way he would do this, the way it's like, it would instantly bring people to tears with its realism. You know, to being able to go back see your wife because she just died and you can go hang out with her in VR, like the best kind of VR. Think like 10 years in the future from now, 15, 20, 30 years in the future from now. But anyway, the whole argument is that they're trying to convince people already that you're going to be able to upload into a computer, that you're going to be able to merge with a machine. And I think that's just going to be an illusion. It's going to look like the person is merging with the machine when in reality they're just dying and the machine is doing the rest. And it's kind of the ultimate destruction of humanity is to see how much, you know, just kind of like what he just said there. But I always had that kind of inherent feeling. Even when I was like, I remember being like 12 years old and thinking, you know, kind of this kind of tech stuff, like if this could get better that quick, and just kind of the same kind of thing that Elon Musk said. He was saying this whole thing. If you look at the rate of video games, I remember seeing the next generation of video games coming out, and I'm like, dude, like you go from like Super Nintendo into PlayStation, right? And then PlayStation to PlayStation 2, that kind of transition period, it's like 5 years or something like that. And I'm looking at like, this is insane. Like, you know, I was actually thinking by the time, the age I am now, I was actually thinking by this time we would have like so much more. And we do in some ways, but not really in others. It seems like it's way less than I thought in terms of physical technology, but way more in just the kind of things like apps. You know, apps or where all the technology is and stuff, and data, having all that data. But it plays into the exact same thing. They got to get all this data so that they can mimic it later. And then, like what he's saying, when you have all this live data, you can actually add stimuli to actually change the way things are going to go. So, and Google actually did this with his search results. So they actually did this specifically with his search results. They went back, they looked at a year of data. They took search results for like a year worth of data and simulated what actually, not just him, it was him and Trump. And basically they were looking at the election, how the election would have panned out differently if there was certain characters or certain types of news things that didn't make it into play. So if certain things didn't go viral, what would have happened? Would it have played out the same way? And they have so much data on that they ran simulations on this at Google for months and months and months, trying to figure out how the hell they lost the 2016 election, because Eric Schmidt was the guy, the creator of Google, co-creator of Google, was the guy that went and set up the digital platform for the Hillary Clinton Foundation, for Hillary Clinton's presidential campaign. So he actually goes set up this whole digital structure and infrastructure thing, and they still lost. And so they went back and actually looked in the Google, they pulled up all the data, everything, and ran simulations on it as if it was happening again, and they just tweaked these things. If we took this out, what would happen? How would this flip? How would that flip? And then they removed him. So like, just take out Alex Jones. You get rid of him, man, we can really do a lot more damage with getting rid of him than even touching anything else. He's the only person that they completely banned off all platforms simultaneously. And there's ridiculous characters that are on these platforms that are spewing hatred. Like people, there's black people that say literally white people have to die. We have to get rid of white people. There's religious leaders saying, this is good, that's bad. Or there's politicians saying crazy stuff on the left, that's crazy, and then the same person on the right basically getting banned for it completely. Now, but nobody's banned like he is, really. Even all the crazy stuff that we can see Cenk saying, never banned, never suspended, not once, because he's in the YouTube studios. He works at the YouTube studios. So anyway, this is the second one.
Most psychic people who are able to do this, and they turn their heart off, and then they put them into these events, and it's like the things that aliens tell them. They come out and they tell scientists, and it works. So,
like what kind of shit?
They didn't tell. Let me tell you, get killed for this stuff, Joe. This is not. Why do you think they want me off the air? Because when I finally figured this out, because I never touched aliens, I kind of knew the whole thing already. Here's what I'm telling you about. When I was a kid, 8, 9, whatever it was, this lady would come over that had known my parents since UT and was involved, and she'd talk about,
So I mean, I just wanted to kind of show this. I won't play all this. Rockstar should make this entire podcast a radio channel. They kind of should. I mean, it's kind of that thing. But you can see the way he speaks about stuff. It's kind of with him and Cenk Uygur, the difference is kind of like delusion versus conviction. So even if someone's right but they're delusional, or they're wrong and they have conviction, or they're right and have conviction and they're wrong and they're delusional, that seems to be what the difference is. So he has conviction and sometimes he's wrong. Cenk Uygur is right, but he's delusional. Like, he's actually delusional. Now, some people would say Alex Jones is delusional, and Cenk Uygur just has conviction. And maybe it's a little both. Maybe it's actually both, but I see one kind of more of the other, and you know what I mean? But again, that could just be biased, But here, watch this.
Because he did say that. But if you make that the headline, it makes it appear like Donald Trump is busy fighting racism, which is white nationalism, almost unity versus. And New York Times, 13 years later, why? They do false equivalency. They say he said, she said. The Democrats are generally mutes anyway. They usually never even fight back. So then all they do is print what the Republicans say. And that is why I was focused on that USA Today headline. I feel bad for Michael there because obviously I was not exactly in control. But it was built up rage and frustration from all of the media falling down at the job and no one recognizing it. So I'm like, look, if you put a headline like USA safer, Bush says, it makes it sound like the USA is actually safer because it's the main headline. Now, the Bush says people see, but they don't absorb that nearly as much as they absorb USA safer. Besides which, it doesn't really matter. You're supposed to, as a journalist, say what the reality is, not what Bush says.
Right, and this is actually, I agree with that 100%, because yesterday I even pointed out this article where the title was someone's opinion. The title was someone's opinion, and it was saying Trudeau effectively blames Trump for the Iron Man downing of the plane or whatever. I'm like, that is a shit article. Like, I don't even want to read this thing. And I read it just to make a point of it. They don't even. That's not even said in the article. It's this guy's. It's his opinion, but they make that the title, and then people click it and be like, "Oh, how I want to see the part where Trudeau," and like, no, doesn't even say it. It's like, this is bullshit. So I agree with exactly what he's saying, but then you go to their website. That's exactly what they're doing. And Alex Jones and them, they'll do the exact same thing. They'll post something, and then you read it, and you're like, your headline's not exactly true to the content, right? I get the point, but it's not really accurate. Same thing I was talking about on the InfoWars channel. I saw that article. They're talking about teaching kids sex ed stuff that just contained really raunchy subjects and stuff. And the title suggested that was the case. But then when you read the actual content, it proves that wasn't the case, but it was being suggested material, but it wasn't actually being taught. So it's just kind of, whatever. But that's kind of the state of the media these days. So you have to actually read the content. And sometimes they dupe you and they get clicks out of it, but at least you're not permanently duped into thinking, these default headlines and stuff.
And so here we are, and New York Times, 13 years later, does the same exact thing, now this time about Trump, but with a different reaction. So I want to get to the different reaction. Obviously, Anna gave you some of it in a second ago, in a little bit more in a minute. But so their headline was, Trump urges unity.
And just a kind of little funny thing. Remember, just in the previous couple clips ago, they're talking about making fun of that girl, saying she's going to get all this plastic surgery, blah, blah, blah.
Versus racism. Now, technically correct, in a portion of that speech, he spoke out against...
Okay, there's mixed thoughts coming here. But yeah, the girl beside me, Anna Kissinger, had a whole bunch of work done. Kind of one of those same things, projection type deal.
Unity versus racism. Now, technically correct, in a portion of that speech, this
is what he's saying. New York Times did this thing all these years ago, saying that it was inaccurate. It's not really cool that they did that. They pick a Republican thing to point out, and then 13 years later, he says, they come out with this, Trump urges unity versus racism. And he's saying, well, technically it's true. And then he makes this argument to try to shut it down, which is, his first point was correct. I agree with him. What he goes on now is just shows the stupidity.
Spoke out against white nationalism
the
almost for the first time, right?
Almost for the first time?
But the full context is, this was an exception for the president. His actions show that he has supported a lot of these people, including saying there are good people on the Nazi side in Charlottesville, and all the stories. We can go on and on and on, and demonize minorities, and especially Hispanics and Latinos. And the shooting in El Paso targeted Hispanics, Latinos, immigrants.
So see what he does here? He adds all these bad elements that have nothing to do with them. The shooting in El Paso with Mexico or whatever. He's saying this, like, listing all these bad things as if they tie into the first thing that he's saying. He's talking about the title of an article that says Trump urges unity over racism, something like that. And it's like, technically that's true. He did say that in his speech, but none of that's valid because this is kind of the first time he's ever talked about it, which he knows. He even qualified that statement saying it's not really the first time he said it, but it's one of the first times he's talked about it. Which, what does that even mean? This is one of the first times. Okay, how many times? When was the last time? Give us some context. When was the last time? Like a day ago, 6 months ago, a year? If he denounced white supremacy a year ago, I don't know how many times you have to do it. I don't know if it's an annual basis or what. But anyway, see, these are all just stupid arguments that they keep trying to throw in. They stack all these. Listen to this stack. Like, try to parse all this.
In Charlottesville, and all the stories. We can go on and on and on, and demonize minorities, and especially Hispanics and Latinos.
Demonize minorities, especially.
And the shooting in El Paso target.
And the shooting in El Paso. So how is he jumping from? Okay, let's say Trump demonized Latinos. What does that have to do with the shooting in El Paso?
Hispanics, Latinos, immigrants, etc. Just like so,
etc. White people.
If you put in the article that
Latinos.
At some point Donald Trump spoke out against white nationalism, that would be good. It's not just accurate. You need that on the article because he did say that. But if you make that the headline, it makes it appear like Donald Trump is busy fighting racism, which is definitely misleading context. Now, the reason I was in a rage back then is because no one would agree with me. Everyone in the media and every one of the Democratic politicians were like, well, I don't get it. What do you mean? USA safer, Bush says. It's totally fine. Jake, you're the crazy one, right? Now, because of Trump, there's this fascinating moment where people are like, oh yeah, that wasn't really the thrust of Trump's speech, was it?
Right.
Wait a minute, maybe these headlines are a little misleading. Maybe the mainstream media goes out of their way to bend over backwards to aid and abet Republicans with their talking points by...
Are you kidding me? The mainstream media is helping Trump. That's what he's saying.
Highlighting their talking points and making it appear that that is the thrust of what they're saying, when in reality it's an exception to the rule.
Well, in reality, he gave a speech talking about, like, it was a specific speech. The article was about the speech, and the title of the article was the main message of the speech. Trump urges unity over racism after this whole Charlottesville thing. So this whole Charlottesville thing happens. I don't know if you remember, but this is the thing where the Unite the Right rally was supposed to be. These people wanted this Robert E. Lee statue to stay up. Other people wanted to get rid of it because he was like a slave owner or a Confederate general or something like that. So the left wanted to get rid of it. The right wanted to keep it because it's just a historical thing. They don't like the idea of burning books, essentially, even if it's a character with mixed background, and which they all have. I mean, the whole history is that. So they want to bring down this thing. So these guys get a permit. They go to this place. They're basically protesting, saying they don't want this thing to be taken down. Then the left, like the Antifa people, show up there and start kind of combating them and they start battling out there. And next thing you know, they're like whacking each other in the head with sticks. And then one guy plows into the crowd, like indiscriminately plows into the crowd, and then puts it in reverse and takes off. I think someone got killed. Yeah, I think a woman was killed in that, and a bunch of people were hurt. And the guy takes off, and they're like, "Look, this is what happened. This is white racist. This is the white supremacists. It's evil." And they just took that story and ran with it hardcore. And then when Trump kind of tried to equalize the situation a little bit, they just hounded him, and saying, "Look, you're basically defending white supremacy, white blah blah blah." And so he does this whole big speech saying, he disavows these people. He does this, he does that. Well, we got to come together. That's the whole speech. So when they write the article so that's what he's upset. This is the straw grasping that they're doing. And I mean, look at their titles. Like this is how they write their titles of their content. Cenk goes ballistic, part 2. Almost every single one of their titles has like a capitalized word in it because it's clickbaity. That's their demographic. Gets Parnas, I don't know how you say his name, blows up Trump impeachment. CNN blows debate. Just like everything they do is basically like that. All their stuff's crap. The toughest questions, tense moments. Like, what are they? You need to hear this. Evangelical praying about Michelle Obama. Mitch McConnell scares Trump. Like, just they always got the giddy. Secret. Like, look at it. CNN makes embarrassing mistake. Hey, look, that's actually the one where they're talking about they mix the... I want to see this real quick. Because I pointed this out in the clip the other day. They put up the wrong pictures of the candidates. So Yang had the wrong picture, and then Gabbard had the wrong picture as well. Let's see how
blackout was trending over social media today because of a graphic that was run on CNBC's Squawk Box.
I'm just curious what they talk about this. I haven't seen this clip. I want to see.
If you guys can see what the problems were.
Yeah, so that's not Yang and that's not Gabbard. That's Klobuchar, or not. That's Klobuchar. That's
Okay.
Gillibrand.
So candidates' fundraising totals for the fourth quarter of 2019. Let's look through it. You got Trump, that's fine. Sanders, okay. Buttigieg, Biden, Warren. What? Who's that? That guy. Who's that guy? Because that's not Andrew Yang. Okay, but let's go further. Let's look at the other graphic. Yeah, that's not That's not Tulsi Gabbard.
I thought you were going to say, why does Booker look like Scar from The Lion King? I think that, look, I'm always curious because we don't have a traditional sort of newsroom environment. I'm always curious, like, I wish I knew more of what happened there. But what clearly happened is the way they get their graphics onto their wall is they print it out on a desktop printer onto a newspaper, and then they scan that. Those photos have creases in them. What is going on?
So, look.
This guy's so stupid. Look how your fucking screens are set up, you dumbass. What do you think you're looking at? You're looking at either a montage or it's even just when you zoom in and you're taking a picture of a screen. You ever take a picture of a screen before? You see all the pixels. That's why it looks like there's a scar. It's an artifact. This guy is so stupid.
Television news is an interesting place because you're right. We don't work in a traditional newsroom environment because we have...
Because you're not news.
Like, for the main show, 4 content producers, including me, who's like the main host, right?
Yeah.
So I say that because in any other traditional news environment, the person who's on camera doesn't produce their own stuff. They just don't, right? They have segment producers. Every single segment has its own separate person producing.
That would
Which
be
is
awesome.
like, but
that would be awesome.
look, it's awesome to some extent,
I
but
know.
sometimes when you have like too many cooks in the kitchen and you don't have like, first of all, let me just say, as someone who like
The fuck
is
are you
on
talking
camera
about?
who comments on these stories, and
Yeah,
I'm sure
yeah,
you
yeah,
feel
yeah.
this way as well, it's actually a huge advantage to produce your own stories because you read the material yourself, you research the material yourself.
Okay, but why aren't they talking about... Are they giving an excuse for it or what?
Like, it's not day one. How could you not know? Like, there had, like, 3 people at least, minimum. 3 people.
So, I mean, these guys are idiots. It's clear why they had the photos. They did it on purpose. They absolutely did it on purpose. Those are the 2 candidates that fall completely outside of the rest of the establishment Democrats. Tulsi Gabbard is huge anti-war. Real Democrats want war because it's the military-industrial complex is tied into the Democrat Party. Just look at the wars under Obama. Nobody shot off about the wars under Obama like they did under Bush. And the Republicans are like that too. They're like when you hear call them like chicken hawks and stuff like that. Well, these guys are basically, I like the term limousine liberals. I heard that one the other day. That's basically what these guys are. They're just talking like, I don't even think they can't even compute how this could happen. Like, how could that even happen? You know, it's obvious how it happened. It was on purpose. They want to kind of disassociate they don't want to give them brand recognition, right? Because if they actually put Tulsi Gabbard's image up there, people aren't going to be reading the names under it. They're just going to be, it's going to catch their eye. They have that thing up for a minute. They just put it under the table. Same with Yang. They're just like, it doesn't look recognizable or whatever. You know, the Yang picture actually kind of looks like him. The Gabbard one, it's not even the same race. Like, she's Hawaiian. She's dark skinned. I'm pretty sure she's like a Hawaiian native. She has like much darker skin, black hair, and they put like a blonde chick up. So stupid. And yeah, and Gillibrand's not even in the race, and that was a picture they used for Gabbard. But, you know, it could have been just a mistake, but the fact that they spent 6 minutes debating, like, how could this happen? And this guy is such a dummy. Anyway, and she is too, man. She's just grotesque. She's an actual piece of shit.
Now, you might have been seeing a lot of Alex Jones lately. He was the excited guest on Piers Morgan talking about gun control and some conspiracy theories. Well, he's going to join us now. He's, of course, the star of the Alex Jones Show. It is nationally syndicated through a lot of the radio stations in this country, and Infowars.com. It's a very popular website that he's involved with as well. Alex, thanks for joining us on the Young Turks.
It's just like, you could just see the demeanor. I mean, it's something about that demeanor. Like, it's just, it's like this snarky attitude or something.
Good to be here. Been watching the show for years.
All right, great. And look, I'm hoping we have a productive conversation in the time limit that we have, go back and forth a little bit. So let me start with the first question. You've got a lot of I want to ask you about gun control. We're going to get to that in a second.
Sitting pretty
That's
close
why
to
you've
the
been in
TV,
news.
man.
But you have a lot of theories as to what's going on. I can't keep up with all the conspiracy theories. Now, and I don't say that dismissively because some of them are true. Gulf of Tonkin is true, of course. You know, I kid around about Operation Gladio, but that was something that the government has admitted that they did in the past, etc. But is there an overarching theme to all these conspiracy theories? What do you think is happening in the world?
It's not my opinion. There are hundreds of books written by the top technocrats in the last 60 or 70 years saying they wanted to design a global technocratic scientific dictatorship because the general public are a bunch of animals and we need to be dumbed down, corralled, and then finally phased out. And Bill Joy back.
And I just want to jump in here real quick. I actually had an argument. I was playing the game last night. I was playing with this guy we were having a really good game session. And we started talking about like Trump and politics and stuff like that, and racism. And it turns out he's a black liberal professor of arts who's liberal. So I'm like, holy shit, this is gonna be a dude. And I was just ripping shit up, man. I mean, he was trying to tell me like there's no black landowners in the 1800s. I'm like, what are you talking about? There was tens of thousands of them. It's like, and then he's like, that's anecdotal. Like, so what if one or two of them had? I'm like, dude, it was tens of like. He's like, where are you getting your sources from? And it's like everything was like a straw man. Everything I said I had to be cited, and I'm like quoting stuff. And I gave him statistics, gave him the guy that wrote the article, the website, and roughly what time it was. He's like, but you can't name the source. You can name all those numbers, but you can't name the source. And I'm like, I don't remember the exact name of the source, but I remember it's like, you know, one of those labor statistic things. It's like a whole report they did. He the guy in the article quoted that as his source material to suggest that whites make twice as much as blacks, right? And I pulled up that source and I was like, okay, but you also have to realize Asians make more than whites. And then Hispanics make more than blacks as well. So is it just... And if you get into this guy starts saying, well, even when you get into like PhD and stuff like that, you know, people are getting way less employment if they're a minority. I'm like, no, it's not. If the unemployment rate difference for someone that has a PhD, if they're black, Hispanic, Asian, or white, and I think they even listed like non-white Latino or something like that. In virtually every single category was like almost identical. It was like 2.8 versus 2.5%. You know, where if you don't have an education, the black unemployment rate is like 28%. For whites, it's like 18%. For Latinos, it's like 10%. So it's like, okay, wait. You can't just say, like, make a point about like racism existing, and then say here's this fact that shows that, and therefore this statement about racism is true, when there's actually other information that is valid, that it's valid to other races, but those races are not racist. So I was pointing all these kind of things out like this, and anyway,
12 years ago, wrote for Wired magazine that the future doesn't need us, and talked about going to a...
Oh yeah, and that's the main thing I was going to say there. And he was basically saying, like, he kept saying over and over and over, he literally thinks the general population is fucking stupid. He thinks the general population is fucking retarded. That's his words. Him saying, he's like, they're stupid. They're fucking stupid. Like, that they would vote against their own interests, that they would do this, that they're just idiots. Like, they're so stupid. And I'm like, how can you say that, man? Like, first of all, it's actually statistically not true, because the population, the IQ is based on the average population, and they start shooting off about IQs not being real and stuff. And I'm like, hey, well, whatever. If you just take an average of everybody's intelligence on whatever metric you want to go by, whether it's reading or just conscious thought and, you know, being self-aware or whatever, or just being able to figure out basic problem-solving stuff or critical thinking, whatever you want to qualify as being intelligent, you know, if you look at the IQ tests in general, have a pretty good gauge on that in terms of determining if someone is mentally deficient or mentally superior, at least in certain categories, right? Logical thinking, pattern recognition. Pattern recognition is a very helpful, or holding numbers, chains of numbers in your mind at the same time. This is a very useful thing. Does it make you smarter? It certainly helps you accomplish a lot more with your brain. Does that mean smart? Okay, whatever. So this guy's arguing these semantics and stuff, but this whole time he's calling the general population stupid. stupid. And he's saying people are racist, all this race, all this institutional racism, all this systemic racism, and the population's dumb. So he's actually calling his own population dumb, saying the other population's dumb because and they're racist, and just all this, like, and he's convinced, absolutely convinced, that the general population is just a bunch of sheep. And I'm like, I go out there and sometimes I feel like that too. I go in the mall, you just feel like this is a cattle thing. And you see like one in, or like same thing when you're going out driving and all this, like this guy cuts in front of you, does all this shit. And you're like, fucking can't stand driving in the city. This city sucks. The people don't know how to drive. But then if you stop and think about it, it's like maybe 1 in 100 cars. Like it's a minority that actually acts like that. Same thing with people on their phone and bumping into each other. It's a pretty small percentage. It's really not that many. Most people are walking around, but we keep noticing the things that bothering us. So we keep seeing it, whatever. But all these people, you stop and ask them a question, they'll give you a pretty articulate thought. And if you don't believe it, go and watch clips of people talking to like redneck Trump supporters. Especially when they're at rallies and stuff like that. And there's a whole bunch of videos, super long, tons and tons of content, where you see like this classic-looking racist guy, what you would think was a white supremacist racist guy, and they'll say, "Hey, do you want to come talk to these, liberal supporters or whatever, and see what they think, or do you want to bring in this black guy with you?" Stuff like that, and everybody's like, "Yeah, man, yeah, come on, yeah, don't worry, man, come on." I know Millie Weaver did a. I gotta show you this because it's better than this clip, and they just kind of shoot off back and forth, and kind of shows you them kind of talking to each other, and that's kind of neat. But see if this brings it up. I'll know pretty quick if I see it. Yeah, this guy.
What you're about to
legalize immigration.
So yeah,
have a ticket.
Yeah, so he's like, he even got a ticket to come to see the place, but he's too scared to go. So he's on there's a street to the what we're looking at to the right, there left. There's a street there, and then on the other side there's a big MAGA rally, like a huge MAGA rally. And these people here are protesting the MAGA rally. So they're just here, they're leftists, they're all upset about the MAGA rally. And this guy's like, he was interested. He kind of wants to see what it's about. So he's very interested. He has a ticket to the rally, but he felt like he was kind of scared. Like he didn't, like, I don't know, man, if I'm going to be safe in there.
Okay. Right. But me seeing no blacks over there, that confuses me. What are on the people's minds on the Trump line? What are on their minds? That's what I am trying to figure out.
All right, let's go find out.
Your future ways. And God bless this guy, man. It's not very often that you see people on the left. And this could be kind of like what I just said before. It's kind of, you don't really notice this, but there is a much higher percentage of people that are intolerant on the left than on the right, at least in terms of what you'll see like in this kind of thing. Because all these people, you'll see in the reverse. I'll show it.
Let's go find out.
Why is that guy yelling at her like that?
Someone said your future wife's over there.
Okay.
Marcos also expressed fear that his safety would be in jeopardy if he went inside the Trump rally.
Hey, I have a ticket for this event. I do. Will I be safe in there? Will I be safe?
He wants to know if...
And that's the only negative reaction, because I've seen this clip before. That was the only kind of negative one before. And I was trying to think, I'm like, is he annoyed that he's even being asked a question? Or is he just doesn't like the guy, or what, you know what I mean? So that was the only one I wasn't sure about, but just, you can see a whole bunch
he's going to be safe inside there if he goes.
Yeah, come on in, you go with us. You come on, you go right here with us. You break a line. Come on, man. I put my arm around you, man. It's all about love, man. I love all my people. I love all my people.
That's a good thing.
I love all people. Come on, man. We love you, man. Come on with us, man.
Come on. They love you. They love you.
Come on, let's go down some more.
Why do you guys support Trump?
Because I believe in freedom of speech.
That's right.
And the Second Amendment.
He's doing what's best for the country. Legalize immigration, not illegal, right? What's wrong with that?
Okay, so
those of us that have to come here legally,
we pay a price for that, and so people jumping over the border, people get mad. People get mad when people jump over the border at Disneyland.
Okay, so hold on.
We're talking something
so
about
back
something.
in 1619, let me tell you something.
You can't be thinking in the past, brother.
What do you mean you can't be thinking in the past?
You can't.
You do things in the past to get to the future, boss.
I know, but in order to move forward, man, you can trip if you keep on looking backwards.
I saved money in the past to buy a car in the future.
This guy's quick.
If you keep on looking back, you're gonna keep on tripping, brother.
Yeah. You gotta figure out where it started, boss.
Oh, I know where it started, man, but it's about where we're going.
Okay, go to the Bacon store and then the Burgess house.
You keep on looking back, you're gonna trip, man. No. You can't have that victim mentality, brother. You can't do that, man. We got to move forward.
That's history, boss. We got to this point.
History, man.
And this
history, brother.
The other guy sounds like the guy I was arguing with last night. He just kept saying stuff like that. No, like this happened. This happened.
Is he gonna be safe if he comes in with you guys? Because he doesn't know. He's what?
I come in with my
For
kid.
sure, yeah, you'll be good.
Of course.
Yeah, come with us.
You'll be good.
Are you in the front?
We've got tickets. You can come in with us.
Can you tell us why you support Trump?
Because he puts America first, which is what a president should do.
So let me tell you that term, America First.
Yeah.
Let's go back to 1924, the Democratic National Convention, right?
Yeah.
All Ku Klux Klan. Guess what their sign said? America First. The first coin of the Ku Klux Klan.
Yeah, the Democratic National Convention. So the Democrats were as well Klan members. So he actually acknowledges that point, that it was the left that was mostly the Klan members in the Democrat Party.
One side of the coin said. This is the truth.
Was America First invented by the Ku Klux Klan? Even Snopes dispels that rumor. Just because some random white supremacist out there might have said America First, you get this rumor perpetuated by leftist media outlets that the Ku Klux Klan was originally using America.
And who cares? That's like saying, like, if the Ku Klux Klan was anti-abortion, then what? If you're anti-abortion, you're white supremacist?
First, and that they invented it. The white supremacist group made free.
Okay, he wants to tell you, what does Make America Great Again mean to you?
What does it mean to me? It means that we have opportunities. Donald Trump has done a lot specifically for me because with like jobs and stuff like that, and I invest in the stock market and stuff like that, and I've made a ton of money. So you see all these people over here and stuff like talking bad about him, but they don't understand. That's what it is.
Well, it's not that they talk.
How many Trump rallies have you been to?
Right?
You said
it's
what?
their First Amendment right.
It is the First Amendment right.
Donald
but
Trump talk about everybody.
what?
He talks about everybody. He call people names. It's just horrible. He cusses people out.
Okay, what's wrong with that?
What's wrong with that?
Have you read the Constitution?
What you have? It's a freedom of speech.
Okay, so why can't he say what he want to say?
That's what I'm saying. But you're saying, look at those people. You comparing the people.
We're here in America, and we can say whatever the fuck we want to say. That's what I think. You guys take it easy, all right?
Power to the people. That's all I can say. Yeah. Hold on, I'm trying to figure who I'm gonna use my ticket with. I'm going in with somebody.
Why do you guys support Trump?
I like his realism. No fakeness.
No fake.
Just tell us how it is.
Tell us how it is.
Tell us how it is.
So he wants to know if he goes in there, if he's going to be safe and welcome.
I will welcome you with open arms.
That's her.
We're all one people, right?
That's what we'll say. But do the rules apply the same?
What do you mean? Look, this guy's just, he doesn't want it to be true.
Some people try to keep us segregated, but we're not going to allow that to happen.
But it's part of the laws. It's part of the rules.
We're going to be one people.
It's part of the rules. It started off that way, and it's got to still continue.
We're going to make the necessary changes, and it is everyone's united.
Best. Let's all be one people.
Well, we've been saying that, and what happened to him? He dead. He was non-violent, and he still died. They said Malcolm was about violence, and they both in the same place.
And a lot of those Democrats a lot of the people that were part of the KKK were Democrats back then.
I agree with that. I agree with that.
Times changed.
So we got a dilemma here, don't we?
Yeah. So let's talk to more people. Come on.
Hey, you guys are almost changing me around. Hold on, a few more, I might change my mind.
Yeah.
Huh? If I can get in there safe and get out safe, guess what? I'll become a Trump supporter.
When I went to the Trump rally down in Florida, there was more Cubans there than there were white people.
Okay.
So it's not all the same in every city. It's just based on demographics. And I'm sure these people would be happy.
Every time when you look on TV, you mean to tell me you don't see all white people behind them now? Come on now.
We haven't at the Trump rally.
Yeah.
Well, they want.
Is it a representation of America the way it is?
It's because they want more people of color to join them. But the mainstream media, the media tells everyone that listens that Trump is racist, and these people are watching Fox News, all these other ones. It's like, he's not racist, so they're watching the left media that says he's racist, and so that's why it turns off a lot of people of color.
Some of the things I've heard,
some of the things you've heard are not true, and the only way you can figure it out for yourself is to actually come and talk to the people themselves. Let's do it. Come on, let's talk.
I support Trump because he supports American values.
American values?
He supports
and what American values? So let me tell you what American values are.
Listen to me. I'm an immigrant to this country, right? I came here through a process, right? Through a process, right? Everybody that comes to this country should go through a process.
So the settlers that came back here in 1619.
Oh, God, 1619. Get out of here.
Well, what? You have to start
somewhere. 2020. There's a new process.
So why was Donald Trump in Virginia the other day celebrating?
Celebrating 400 years.
What about my people? What about my ancestors? What about all of that? Come on now.
But what about today and what we can do moving forward?
Well, sorry, buddy. Your ancestors got fucked. Probably. I mean, assuming he's descended from slaves, which I don't know. But, yeah, my ancestors were fucked too, man. Well, I had this argument too, because I was like, what are you talking about? They had Irish slaves and stuff too. It was, so you can't just say white people benefit from this or that or the other thing when, you don't know if that white person could have been a descendant from slaves themselves. So it's not really fair to just blanket statement stuff. And he was like, there was never slaves, and then he was pointing out it's like they were indentured servitude. So they're indentured servants. And I'm like, that's a bullshit difference. But then, I actually checked it out, and to his credit, there is a difference there. I mean, first of all, the legal difference, there were certain rights that whites had inherently, even if they were a servant, that blacks wouldn't have had. And but I mean, the point was that there was thousands and hundreds of thousands of them that came from Ireland and stuff like that were political prisoners or were just prisoners in general that were extradited. Is that the right word? But they're basically expelled from Ireland and sold as slaves. So a lot of them were actually sold as slaves. Some actually kind of made a contract type thing, so they got passage to the New World, but they would have to be kind of a slave for like 7 years. And then they had the same kind of troubles as well. They were beaten, they were murdered, they were raped, they were kept longer. Their rights were violated in many of the same kind of ways. Not to the same extent, and obviously not as bad in some ways as well. Especially since, like, a lot of them were saying, like, be up to like 7 years or something like that. You could have this indentured servant where a slave actually, you could even essentially breed them and they would all still be slaves. They never got out of being a slave. But then I was making the point that, that basically all started to stop happening in the 1800s when they started to get land. They were starting to become prominent, like black Republicans. I think the first black leaders were Republicans. The whole Civil War, the hundreds of thousands of people that died during the Civil War fighting for ending slavery. And, I mean, there's people that fought to keep it, or to keep the way things were, at least. But then there's also tons of people that didn't. It wasn't like a black versus white war. It was whites on both sides and blacks on both sides, fighting together against each other, against two opposing ideological views. So... And I'm going to say the people that were for the succession were probably not doing it willingly if they're a person of color, versus people that were, fighting to abolish it, that were black and white on that side. So, but yet that racism still carried through And like what this guy has here, like the victim complex mentality, whatever. He's stuck in that zone. He's like, think about, I don't know how many times he says 1610. He's been indoctrinated with this point of view that something happened and it's still there. And everybody else there is just like, dude, come get out of here, man. You do whatever you want. You can go be a doctor right now. Go be a doctor. You're going to make the exact same amount as every other doctor. Nobody's going to stop you from being a doctor. Nobody's going to stop you from being opening a car manufacturing company or whatever. You do whatever you want. So, I mean, that's a lot. You could see that kind of response from a lot of people there. And so many people, like, just endless, over and over and over. People just saying, come on, come on. And then, look, when they go over to the other side.
Face. Close the camps! Close the camps! All right. Close the camps! Why should... Close the camps! 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 Close the camps!
And this is on the other side. This is the protesters.
See why people on this side don't even bother trying to talk with people over here sometimes because
it's loud and you can't.
You can't. They drown you out with yelling. You're shutting down discussion.
We're not asking for a conversation.
You're shutting down discussion.
Asking for a conversation.
So I can't get them to answer like a real question.
Conspiracy theory channel, and it's not accurate. You guys create delusions in your mind, and then because you guys are all ignorant, you guys just eat them up like little mice in cages.
Black people have gotten bad information ever since 1619. Black people.
Oh, he just got you down.
No, you are wrong. I'm with myself.
Why your network is being sued? Can you please tell me why your network is being sued by the parents of
Don't
killed?
touch me.
I won't touch you, but you stop interfering in our protest.
I'm not interfering.
You're a traitor and a treasonous. You're a Russian agent. You're a Russian agent.
Marcos,
ma'am, you're a Russian agent.
You just got poked in the eye by your flag.
I did not. I was trying to get between
you didn't mean to. You can never come to a black man and explain to a black man about Black Lives Mattering and things of that matter. Let me tell you something.
I'm telling you that I support you and have.
Oh God, the way.
You support us due to the fact that you continue to enjoy what you know to be white privilege.
How do you stop us from enjoying?
How do we become black? How do we become black?
You don't become black. You give us our shit back. You give us and our people our shit back.
That's why you need
your people keep on keep on building on our shit. See what I'm saying? Hey, don't yell in my ear, boss. Don't do it.
He's like, let's call it getting red pilled.
That white privilege. That's a white privilege what he's using.
See, that's what I mean, I forgot this part, but I was just thinking, I mean, like he's probably thinking, like he's probably not even computing the fact that he's arguing with the same side that he was on. So he was just on the side, he was with these people. But now that they think he's actually coming from the other side, they don't realize he's on their side. They're arguing with him. So they're arguing back and forth. The leftists are arguing with each other. And he's making this case about this, and these people are so ignorant about it that he's saying that they're using their white privilege to suppress his free speech, when the very white people on the other side were saying, dude, come on in, come with us, yeah, man, and listening, everybody listening, she's listening intently to everything said, even when they're calling her Russian agent and stuff, but then he thinks it's racist that it just doesn't fucking make sense. But this poor guy, he can't compute it. It's starting to sink into him that he.
Just because you're right there with them, don't mean. From my perspective, you should be going to other white people trying to explain to them about how Black Lives Matter, not to other black people trying to explain how Black Lives Matter. You can't. Let me tell you something. You can't stand next to me or stand behind a sign that says Black Lives Matter and understand the concept of Black Lives Matter because you're standing behind a sign. The only reason you standing behind a Black Lives Matter sign is being white, to me, is because you feel guilty. It's because you feel white.
Hey, man.
See, I got some Trump supporters right here.
Okay, so
these are Trump supporters right here.
What's going on over here?
See, like these guys look pretty classic hillbilly racist guys.
Not at all. Not even in the slightest.
Why?
Because nobody wants us over here.
Hey, that felt good as cool.
I'm so sorry.
That felt good as fuck.
This girl just poured water on him.
I'm glad it was
Oh my god! You should be so sad.
Turn around. Turn around.
Hey, you should be proud of yourself. Like, hey, I'll shake your hand. I'll shake your hand.
I'm cold.
Why did you throw water on that guy?
Oh, I didn't do that. I don't know what you're talking about.
Side of the street.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Let's speak about this white privilege stuff.
There ain't no white privilege.
Ain't white privilege. I grew up poor as fuck.
They're yelling.
I grew up poor as fuck. I just love how quick he said that. He was right on it, man. He wasn't taking that.
White privilege stuff.
There ain't no white privilege.
Ain't white privilege. I grew up poor as fuck.
They're yelling.
I grew up poor as fuck.
Trump at us.
What they got?
You want Trump?
Hey,
I want to have this guy
Can you tell him to stop?
hold on, can I ask you a question? Let me ask you a question.
Someone explain to me just the Black Lives Matter so you can prove your point and why you're doing this.
You know you're proving to me that you're not worth my time because you're ignorant?
I'm pretty sure y'all equal to me. I'm pretty sure you can walk into a store and be in front of me in line and you get served first. Am I wrong? And do I go up to you and go, this guy's black, get the fuck out of line? Have you ever had that happen to you? Nope.
What are you
No fucking line.
I get harassed and treated like shit. I've never did anything to anybody. Never been in trouble ever in my life.
tell you this right now.
But just because I'm black and I got tattoos and I'm like, just because I got dreads and I'm black, they assume that I got drugs. They assume that I got this and I got that on me.
Over there.
So they treat me like shit.
They assume anything they be over here right now.
Yeah, but if you saw the same thing, you, like a meth head that's white, you're gonna think the same thing. You look like you're a crackhead. Right, because you're black, you look like a crackhead.
You never roll around.
Walk away, kid.
You never roll around just a black guy on a normal, regular day. I get treated like that, treated like shit for nothing. I've never did shit to nobody.
All we're saying is our lives matter and it's a problem.
It is. All lives do matter. You guys think you're excluded. Well, literally, you're excluding your fucking selves from the rest of it.
Excluding. That's not what it's about. It's about saying enough is enough. That's all it is. You don't know because you don't participate in it.
So if we say Black Lives Matter, would that change anything for you?
Yes.
Okay, Black Lives Matter.
Acknowledge it and do something to fight injustices.
But can you also acknowledge that all lives also matter?
We say that anyway. All lives do matter, but that's not the point of the movement. The way the movement started was because too many people were being murdered. That is why the movement started.
I think what happened was because it took such an anti-cop perspective and the blue lives, it pitted blue lives versus black lives, and people think that by endorsing Black Lives Matter, they're actually saying they don't care about the blue lives, the police lives.
There's not, technically there's no such thing as a blue life.
Police officers.
Okay. So police officers matter too. That's not the point. The point is we need to listen to the.
Like I would ask a question. My question would be, who do you think gets gets shot off about more often, police officers or black people? And that's what I would end this episode on, is that question. Tell me what you think in the comments. Give it a thumbs up, give it a thumbs down, give it a share. This is a long episode. It always ends up being much longer than I think because I go on these ranting tirades, and it's probably for the worst, but whatever. It's already done now. So make sure you hit that subscribe button, share it, like it, send it to a couple friends. See if send it your favorite part. You can if you click share. Check this out. If you click share, you can go start at, and you can put in the time that you started at, and it links directly to that point in the video. So you go boom, 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 and look, it's exactly that point in the video. So find the part that you like in either any of these clips or this whole Tim Radio episode itself, and share that stuff. Tell me what you think, and if you want to splice it and repost it and do whatever you want, cool. Free range. Take the content and do whatever you want with it from my side. And then this stuff, you know, you can always play clips and comment on and repost and do your own thing too. So anyway, thanks for watching, guys. Appreciate it, and we'll see you on the next episode of the Tim Radio Show.